One. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. We are live here with Charlie Farren and Chachi Lopret. And we were going to have and maybe joined by Harry of the channel. We're going to talk about a big birthday celebration, I guess, coming up that's related to the channel. And Chachi said, let's do a thing. And Charlie said, let's do a thing. So we're doing a thing. Hi, guys. What's going on?
Awesome.
Well, it's good to see you, Bradley. Thank you for letting us join you on your broadcast. And yes, there's a big event coming up this Saturday night. And of course, we have our dear friend. I love this guy. I always ask him if he can join me on these kinds of things. The great Charlie Farren. But we're here because there's a big event this Saturday night, May 28th, as you see behind Bradley J there, the 80s throwback to the channel. Charlie Farren is performing. And along with Charlie, the Nervous Eaters and the Del Fuegos, Baron Switfield, Fred Pinole, Rick Berlin, and you never know who's going to show up. I know I'll be there. Bradley, you're going to be on stage emceeing a band here and there. We'll have a bunch of friends from the channel days as we celebrate the channel. And I will tell you, Bradley, this event was supposed to happen 2 years ago. And because of COVID, it keeps getting postponed. So it is this Saturday night at a new venue called Roadrunner. I've never been there before. I don't know if either of you guys have, but
I've not been there. I bet Charlie must have been there.
No, I haven't, but I've talked to lots of folks. I've asked folks about it, and they say it's a beautiful, major, venue, performance venue for touring acts. It's kind of a lot of folks likened it to House of Blues or the Roxy, if it's still called the Roxy downtown.
So it's over
big
by
rock club.
It's on Guest Street, which is kind of over by WGBH, right? And near the old Nike outlet. Is it in that building?
Correct.
Is it in the same building the Nike outlet was in, or they built a new building?
I think it's a new building. I can't be sure, but it's in that area where there's the Bruins thing, the Celtics are there. It's all in this Radio Row, all the radio stations are around there. So it is around. I got to go there. It's going to be our first time too,
So you're going to be, it's going to be your first time.
At Roadrunner, yes. It's getting a lot of great press. It's a state-of-the-art sound system, and it's a nice big space, so we can all be comfortable amongst each other.
Comfortable. We can all be spaced out a little bit.
And I think it's a real cool that you were able to get the Del Fuegos back together to do this, because they're fantastic, and what a great inclusion, as well as the Nervous Eaters, right? Yeah, I think that's awesome.
And
I have a question. Go ahead.
Originally, it was supposed to be at the Chevalier Theater in Medford, but because of COVID and scheduling, the great Harry Booras, the creator of the channel, got it booked into Roadrunner. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Good. Can I ask you a question about bands getting together for gigs like this? How long do you have to practice before you get up to speed? How many rehearsals do you have to do? Does it come back like that, or does it?
Well, it's different for everybody. I got to believe, I know the Del Fuegos, because they were on Warner Brothers when we were on Warner Brothers. So those guys are all naturals. And I know that with Fahrenheit, it would take us we would probably have a rehearsal and a sound check with a lot of going through the songs on our own. But I think it's different for everybody. Nervous Eaters too. I mean, those guys played forever, so it does come back to you pretty quickly.
I think Boston bands have some of the best band names ever. Yeah. You know how many Chachi we saw from the Rumble? We would see 24 cool band names, and Nervous Eaters is always one of my favorites.
Me too.
I just picture them nervously eating. So Chachi, who's going to be there again?
Well, and in just reference to crazy names, I do remember when they did a BZ TV news report, and I don't want to say who.
I know what you're going to say,
but they wouldn't
S and the N's, right?
They wouldn't say Smegma and the Nuns on television, so I did want to get that in. But that's one of those band names. But yeah, the Del Fuegos, the Nervous Eaters, and Charlie Farren is amazing because he travels not only New England but the country. He's a great opening act, just him and his guitar, right, Charlie?
Special guest.
Oh, okay. I don't mean to devalue.
Well, it's kind of a joke. It started off as a joke, but it stuck. And I think that a lot of the headlining acts that hosted me would tease me about it, but it got to the point where everybody would put a projection behind the stage, Charlie Farren, America's special guest, and REO Speedwagon started it, but it was picked up by Cheap Trick and ZZ Top and Three Dog Night, and people, everybody kind of did it. They thought it was funny, and it looks and sounds better, and it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah, and what I'm finding out with promoters is when there is a special guest involved, they prefer a man and a guitar and not a full band and loading in and loading out, right?
Well, I think that's a big part of it. As long as you can get the audience riled up before the headliner comes out, you want to warm up the house as a special guest, as opposed to an opening act. So same thing, different name.
So it would be great if we could have every band that's going to be there with us, just like Charlie is. And if we did, I could ask the question I'm asking Charlie. I want to hear about your journey. There's been big gaps in what we know around here. So fill me in. I want to know every detail from back in the day to now. You can skip over big chunks that are irrelevant if you want, but
the relevant? Shorthand version was that I had my first original rock band was Balloon, and it was the first band that I played guitar in and wrote songs in, and we were able to, really fast forwarding. We would play at the channel. It was called Channel 1 at the time.
Channel 1.
Yeah, and it was really there were really two eras for us with the channel, because it was the really only venue in town that was a big format venue that focused on local acts. There were lots of small clubs, and there were bigger clubs that were focused on touring acts. But the channel gave everybody an opportunity to play in a big format room as a local band. And then later we were able to sustain our career as headliners there for many years. While we were touring the States, we'd come back to the Boston area and play at the channel every time we came back. So it was really awesome that way. When then I left Balloon to join up with the Joe Perry Project, and we toured North America. I was with Joe for almost a couple of years. We put a record out on Columbia called "I've Got the Rock and Rolls Again," and that was a really great opportunity for me to get christened into the arenas and the theaters across the country and Canada. So those days were really special to me, because it was the first kind of arena opportunity I had. And then I signed a deal with Ahmet Erdogan, a development deal, and he was encouraging me to do solo acoustic nylon string guitar and vocal, which is what I do now. But I started writing with David Hall, and that turned into Fahrenheit, and we were signed pretty quickly to Warner Brothers. And released a record on Warner Brothers called Fahrenheit. And we toured the country. We toured North America with Boston for that 87, tour, third stage tour. And after all of those years of feeling as though I've been able to do what I wanted to do, my wife and I, decided to have kids. So that changes a lot. And I continued to perform and make records, but I stopped touring and went to work at Digital Equipment Corporation, which was bought by Compaq. It was bought by HP. And I had a global position at Hewlett-Packard. And I was there for about 20 years, still performing around as a solo. And I retired about 15 years ago. And got back into music as, America's special guest. And I've been touring with Three Dog and REO and Cheap Trick, and I've done shows with lots and lots of other acts that, Fogerty and ZZ Top, and as, a special guest. So that's been a blast. And just last week I played in New York with Elliot Easton, doing some Cars tunes. And Golden Earring was on the bill, and Zebra, and it was great to meet those folks that's still out there like me doing it at a high level. So I'm excited to kind of reconnect with the Fuegos and the Nervous Eaters, and it's great to see Rick Berlin on the bill.
Right,
because he's one
still
of the
there.
ones.
He's still doing it. He's one of the ones. That's right.
He always had a great band, in every incarnation. I don't want to leave anybody out. Obviously, Barron's. is a great lineup, and it's different than the typical reunion lineup, which I think is fantastic.
Whoa, Chachi, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to say because we're here because of the channel, and I know Bradley and I spent many nights and even lunchtime shows at the channel.
Right.
I ate much of Piggy's Pizza while I was there, and
There
and
he
look
is.
who just popped in. There he is, the man who
Boom.
started it all, Harry Booras, the creator of the channel. Welcome, Harry.
What, sorry about that mix-up. It was just hard to navigate.
No, hey, that's all good, brother.
No,
We were
he was
just talking
flying in
about-
from Switzerland, and he just landed. So
Yeah, that's
welcome.
right. That's right. So we were talking about our experiences at the channel, and Chachi just gotten started. Tell me about the start of the channel. We don't really have any hurry here. It's not. We can do whatever we want. So this would be a good time for you to talk about how it got going.
Well, it's actually, I had this idea. Before the channel, I worked briefly in one of those big disco type places where nobody even showed up until like 11 o'clock, and at 12 o'clock was just getting going.
In Boston?
In Boston, yeah. And
Narcissus or some other one?
It was actually Jason's.
Okay.
And it was a kind of a temporary job because I was trying to get something going with the restaurant. But I saw this, and I always thought, that all those shows that are happening, the rock and roll shows, which is my kind of music, were all over like 10:30, and people would just either go home and they didn't want to go to the discos. Even some of the discos, like the place on Lansdowne Street, I think it was called the Metro then, used to have shows that were over like at 9:30. And then they would bring in the sound system and the fancy mirror ball and everything else and put on the dancing shoes. So I just said, this is ridiculous. A lot of the people that like rock and roll would much rather be going to a place that was more their style. So when I saw this old disco, which became the channel, which was called the Mad Hatter, and they went out of business because the drinking age went from 18 to 21. So like 90% of the audience was like depleted.
Didn't you keep the disco ball? I think I remember it.
Yeah, just as a tongue-in-cheek thing. People loved it for a while.
And you also had the disco lit floor.
Bottom lit. They had this like plastic dance floor, and they had bottom lights, color lights that would flash up and down. And our DJs would play with those, and everybody loved those. So basically, I just said, hey, why don't we just do it a whole night? Because I saw these people late night after the shows went out. You don't want to go see a rock and roll show and then have to finish off your night in some disco or something. So I figured, this place is a destination place. It was kind of isolated at night, plenty of parking. It was 10 minutes from the T. And I just figured, if people really liked the music, they'd come. So right from the very beginning, we decided that we would support local music because local music, in those days, there was a lot of exciting things going on. So we decided local music would be a big part of it. And then we also decided that because the place was not a place that you'd go walk by and walk in to have a drink, that we'd make it very much a destination. So we figured diversity was the key word. So that's what we did. Diversity, meaning any kind of act, even though it wasn't a part of town that wasn't exactly tolerant of multiculturalism, let's say.
Speaking of local music, I remember you had a dedicated new music night, which was largely local music on Tuesday night. I think it was sponsored. Chachi would know. I think it was partly sponsored by a big beer company, and that's one of my things that I did. I was a DJ for a new music night on Tuesday nights. Harry, big memory for you. Out of all those thousands of shows, hundreds of shows, there must be a couple that stand out. I have Nina Hagen stands out to me. It was packed to the walls. The floor was shaking. The floor, which is already tilted, was shaking up and down. It was sweaty. And the other thing was emceeing Spinal Tap. Those are two big moments for me.
Wow.
What about you, Harry?
Well, Spinal Tap, right? I had gone to see the movie like the day before, right? And then when they came to the channel, it was I'd say 50% of the people actually took it seriously. This is a heavy metal band that and they did a decent set. But
They were good.
They were good, but the just before the show, right? There was there was a thunderstorm, pouring rain, and there was a huge drip right. And remember the channel, this huge serrated roof thing, one of those corrugated roof panels. So if the water leaked, it would come down, run down those channels, and you never know where it was. So the leak was right where that lead singer was supposed to stand per their sound check, and the leak was there, and it was incessant. We couldn't do it. So we're up in the ceiling, up in the roof rather. I'm on the roof with Costa Menounos, who was the caretaker, and we were up there, and we got these huge taps, and we're trying to put them on the roof to stop the leak, and we got put rocks on them, and they're blowing away. And, shit, this is desperate. So
it's old rock and roll.
So we'll go downstairs, right, and we got the leak like 50% contained. So we figured, so Costa came up with this idea. He figured he'd hang one of those, those white plastic buckets with the handles. We figured we'd hang one way up in the ceiling to collect the water, right? And that way, if our luck held out, it wouldn't rain too much, and the bucket wouldn't overfill. Of course, if that ever happened, they probably would have been electrocuted or something. But we just got lucky, and it didn't overfill. And then the other memory, which is interesting, was probably in '81 or '82, we did Clarence Clemens when he was on a tour. Apart from Springsteen, he was still in the band and still smoking hot. And it was January, and he was playing to packed house, sold out, and the place was steaming hot. All of a sudden, and it's 10 degrees outside, like maybe 5 degrees. I go in the middle of the room, and I'm looking up, and there's water's dripping down. I'm saying, this is impossible. It can't be a leak because we don't have sprinklers. We didn't at the time. And it can't be raining because it's 0 out. What it was all the condensation from people in the room. The water was dripping down because it was so hot, and there was such a difference between the inside and the out. So
how about you, Chachi? You must have something.
I do have many memories that I share with you, and because we've spent many lunchtime shows there, and we broadcast many bands at Bow Wow Wow. I remember that show, but for me, and I want to bring Charlie into this, I've known Charlie for many, many years. I always loved his look. I mean, to me, he was like a cross between, Paul McCartney and a very stylish Brian Ferry.
Ooh.
He was very tall on stage.
What's
that?
Well put.
Yes, and of course, besides the look and the whole, he was very charismatic. Of course, I loved his music, and so I've always been a big fan of Charlie Farren. And Charlie, how many times have you played the channel? Anything interesting happening for you there?
Well, I played the channel many times in several different bands, but I'll tell you, it was always a highlight on the calendar. And I recall, going back to what Harry was saying, talking about some of the national acts that played there. I think equally as interesting and as important to both the performing acts and the audience. Very frequently, at least when we played there, other bands who were in town performing concerts would come by the channel after their show. And I can remember being visited by, I'll forget most of them, but Eddie Money came at least 2 or 3 times. And I got to know Eddie and actually toured with him as a solo for years. The Beach Boys, the Nelsons. I won't be able to think about others. One Whiskey and One Beer. His
George Thorogood.
Thorogood. So many more, and I can't even think, would come to our show after their show because they'd be done. We wouldn't go on until midnight, and they'd be done by probably 11. So they'd come by the channel, and I got to believe that happened all the time with other bands as well.
Well, I know John Butcher had said that the guys from Aerosmith came by, and they loved, they kind of gave them a thumbs up from the audience. But yeah, everyone made their way to the channel, Bradley and myself, and then afterwards we'd go over to Waylu's and have some late night Chinese food right across the street. And it was a great place. It was a great vibe, plenty of parking.
It was the center of gravity for rock and roll in Boston for decades.
We're trying to bring that vibe back for this one night on Saturday, where we're actually going to invite anybody that has any channel creds at all to be on the guest list, and we're going to decide, obviously, because there's only so many we can put on. But we're going to and all we really want them to do is just tell people they're going to be there, because we really want. There's going to be a big weekend for music in Boston that weekend.
Yeah. I'm hoping employees, like the bartenders, are all aware of this, and any bartenders around employees will be able to come.
Yeah, we're going to be very liberal with the guest list, because there's been such a big, when we wanted to make the tickets accessible, and with all these fees, and then people have been finding tickets online for as much as over $100. So we're trying to put a lid on that and try to figure out, what the heck's going on, because it's just crazy.
Can't you just sell them at the door?
Yeah, but I mean,
here's my money, here's my ticket.
Well, that would be ideal, and in the old days, that's what would happen. You'd have a pre-sale, only a real big shows, but for the most part, people walked up. You can't do that anymore for some reason. People
I mean, if you're gonna buy a ticket and go, why couldn't you just go and buy a ticket?
Wait, you can't buy a ticket at the door that night? You have to buy them in advance?
Absolutely, you can. But if the venue tells me, and everybody that does concerts tell me, that there's very few walk-ups. People all buy in advance, they buy them online. And then what happens is that by the time the ticketing agencies put the fees on, there's one place where the tickets for this particular concert, which we were going to do $40 and $2 for charity, $42, we're going for like $108. And
that's not right.
So the answer is just buy it at the door.
Well, we're going to try to put up a place where people can buy tickets. There is a box office, which is the Sinclair in Harvard Square. That's their box office where we can buy tickets for no fee. But we're going to try to put it on the line too, online somewhere, so people don't have to pay these fees, because it deters people, So it's unfair. I mean, it's not fair that people think that these tickets are $100. It just sends out the wrong message,
Okay, guys, can you run through who else is going to be there again for anyone who's just joining us?
I'll tell you that way. It's going to be Rick Berlin, Farren Whitfield, Fred and Tom from the Atlantics, Charlie Farren, of course, Nervous Cedars, and then the Del Fuegos. And there are some supposed other special guest stars that may or not be there.
Special guests.
Well, we'll see. We're just.
Can you give us any hints? Any hints? Who might be coming? Any hints?
Even a little. Because if I do, they won't show up.
Little tiny hints.
So it's just we're hoping to. We're going to invite everybody that ever played the channel. The ones that are in town and the ones that aren't in town, and the ones that the Metallica is going to be in town. Those guys love the channel.
So, folks, you might want to think of this as kind of a reunion, not a class reunion, but a channel reunion, because you would be able to meet people that you may not have seen for 42 years.
We're hoping, we're inviting all the musicians, everybody that we can get our IM hands on, and say, look, just show up, be on the guest list, and have some fun.
When I heard that Fred was going to be on the bill, I looked up the band, the Atlantics.
Oh, Fred,
and that song "Lonely Hearts" has been in my head like crazy. What a great song, and I can't get it out of my head.
And the big, giant, long, extended mix of "Lonely Hearts." That
great song.
Only Carter Hall. We had it on cart.
They've got to do that. That's all. They say they're going to do all Atlantics music. They better do that song. They run out of time.
Well, okay. Now I will tell you, Bradley, if there's anyone who's watching and you were on stage at the channel anytime when the channel was open, reach out to me through Facebook, Messenger, email, and I will forward everything to Mr. Harry Booras, who will put you on a guest list. Is that how we're going to do it?
Let me give you one thing as a closer. If you send an email to iwasatthechannel@gmail.com, that's where guest and that email will also be in the Globe story. So that anybody that's out there that they just have to have some legitimate channel creds, either as an employee.
So the Boston Globe is doing an article.
They're doing an article that's going to be online late tonight, and it's going to be online all week. And then I think Wednesdays it's going to be in the printed version.
And
so
Harry,
it was I was at the channel @gmail.com.
Yes, I was at the channel @gmail.com.
That's not that up.
Yeah, and basically just put in your name and what your affiliation is, and then we're going to look through it as many as we can. Plus, if we can't put them on the guest list, or if they have guests that they want to put on, we're going to show them a place where they can go and buy tickets with no fees.
You could probably put that you work there and you would never remember, correct?
Well, I mean, somebody's going to. Otherwise, we're going to lose our shirt, and everybody will come in for free.
Okay, be honest, everyone. Be honest. Now, you got to get out. It's for a good cause, and I hear complaints all the time about there's no place to go. There's no rock music. Well, there certainly is, and
we're going to go late too.
Here is a fantastic example of it. So get up, get out. You can buy your ticket at the door, which is what I would do. Thanks, guys. Am I forgetting anything?
And Bradley J, I think a lot of DJ types will be there. I'm going. I know Bradley J will be there. Bradley will be emceeing bands and some other BCN DJs. So it will be very much a reunion of sorts. And you get to hang out with the great Harry Booras. And it will be a lot of fun to reminisce about the channel days. And Harry, this show has been in the making for 2 years, right?
At least, yeah. We're going to do it 2 years ago. And then obviously,
One quickie. What happened to the sound system of the channel
the universe gave us a smack on the side of the head?
What happened to the sound system? Where'd it go?
Well, Dinky Dawson owned the sound system.
Oh, okay.
And he was on lease from us. So I'm not positive, but I think he may have stayed on with the so-called new owners.
Okay.
And he basically, I think he stayed on, and for 6 months they were in business.
Okay, guys.
So one more thing, Bradley.
Okay, yep.
So Harry, roadrunnerboston.com to buy tickets. Is that
No, don't go there. Go to thechannelstoried.com. And after tonight, you're going to be able to buy tickets with no convenience fees, which is very inconvenient.
One quick comment. I'll just put one up here from Dave Cauldron. Thanks for bringing back members of the channel. I wish I could be here. The reason I put up Dave is it's kind of a blast from my past, you guys. This was the very first program director I ever had back in college radio at the University of New Hampshire. That is going back, way, way, way back before Dire Straits. That's a long time ago. So everyone, do us a favor, share this. You could really help by sharing this. That's how this really gets out. Not so much live, but the shares. Do you belong to any rock and roll groups, Boston groups? Share. Thanks, guys. Thanks, folks.
I hope, Bradley, that you can at least introduce at least one act, okay?
Okay, yeah.
That'd be great.
Right on.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing you all in person, Chachi.
Yeah.
I just want to say, with special guest, Charlie Farren, not an opening act.
Okay, so we'll be not live in about 5 seconds, but still don't go crazy swearing.
See you, Charlie.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Okay.